It is always a good start to go find yourself if Christine and I have to talk beforehand.
Yeah.
Welcome to Thursday. If you aren't having as good a Thursday as we are, glad that you're here because we will brighten up your day. Christine, how are you?
I am fantastic. It has been a fun morning.
Great way to put it. Is that because Bitcoin is up? Are you a Bitcoin maxi?
I mean, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but I'm not like a maxi, like there's like that's
You're like a with wings, not like just the
the full experience. Yeah.
All right. Well, today's crypto arms race. You're stuck with Christine and I traveling the world. It's a girls' trip. Christine, when was the last time you were in Europe?
3 years ago.
3?
Maybe Portugal. I went to Portugal.
Oh yeah, that was 3 years ago. And then I think I was last in Europe for Avalanche Barcelona number 1.
Number 1, right?
Yeah, not last year, year before.
Right. Jelly,
well,
I didn't do that one.
Today's the day that we go back to Europe, Christine. We're going to start in Eastern Europe, where they apparently friggin' love crypto. So that's pretty exciting. And then we're going to talk about some of the sanctions that have come into play because of loopholes, and Europeans hate loopholes. If you've ever met a German, you know that to be true. And then we're going to head back to just the East, talk about what's going on in Poland, talk about what's going on in Germany. There's a lot of good, cool news. And then there's also, there's just like new products. They're just catching up. They're not exactly doing ETFs, but they're here for it. But what we really need to talk about in Europe is Portugal and how they may have a change in power. You were there last, so you're going to have to tell us what it was like. But they think that it's going to become less and less crypto friendly depending on how the upcoming election goes. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then with all of the remaining time, hopefully that takes half our time. And then after that, we're going to talk about BRICS. If you tuned in earlier this week, you probably know that BRICS tried to invite new countries and it wasn't received exactly how they thought, but they also have been testing CBDCs and they've been testing blockchain applications for some of those CBDCs in the hope to literally destabilize the US dollar. So we're going to talk about that. Is there anything you think we're missing?
No, that sounds like a lot.
Great. Let's get ready to go. So Chainalysis reports a lot. I mean, I guess that's their whole jam. And in 2020, they established something that was called the Global Crypto Adoption Index, which is basically how much people are putting the greatest share of their wealth into crypto. Right. So Asia is still in the lead. They came out with a new study just this week. Asia is still in the lead with 263 million users. North America with 57 million and Africa with 38 million. Europe has now 31 million crypto users. Of course, this is like identifiable in that place, KYC, etc. So there's, a little bit of grain of salt there. But what they're seeing is that Eastern Europe is really leading this uptake. So we've got Ukraine, Turkey, and Russia are top European countries adopting crypto. Is this a surprise to you? Is this what you would expect?
I think this is not a surprise to me. I mean, we've been talking about Turkey for a while within my little inner circle about how it's making some noise, it's hosting some events, it's doing all the things, but this it really doesn't super surprise me. No, I think that anywhere where there hasn't been like a harsh no you can't kind of attitude, they're gonna try their best at, to really push through, because these are not the most like government reliant happy citizens, right? So if they have the opportunity, I'm really not surprised that they would go that route. And
absolutely,
yeah.
We did see, of course, the Ukraine had a big uptick at the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia war as well.
Yeah.
So that was pretty expected. And then we also saw Russia had a big uptick at the beginning of that war. No shock to anybody. But what is interesting, based on what you said, is it's like, okay, well, if they don't have great regulation yet, it's a good time to adopt. But Russia has been pretty anti-crypto. They have a lot of laws against their citizens using crypto, and people kind of just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of how it's going no matter where you are. To be fair, I mean, I there's not great laws here where I live or where you live. We're not trying to do anything illegal by any means, but we're trying to find a way to participate. And we're not in the position that they're in where it's like a necessity at that point, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the more desperation, it makes sense. People are willing to, make bigger moves and be a little bit more risky to protect themselves, right? And that's kind of what it's all about, is that feeling of security, safety. Like, what happens when my country, kind of whatever rugs me, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's what's happening, right? Like, that's why all these people are adopting it, is because of fear of being rugged by their country. So
I'm gonna get you a T-shirt that says "My country rugged me."
you should. We should wear them. We'll give them to each other for Christmas, and then we can come on an episode together and wear them at the same time.
Great idea, but I don't want to wait till Christmas. Christmas in June. Okay, so what is interesting about this is we're seeing Ukraine and we're seeing Russia have big uptake. Turkey is no surprise. Anywhere that's kind of unstable like that is no surprise. But with that in mind, the EU is bringing in some new sanctions, some new regulation around sanctions, because there are loopholes, such as crypto. Now, crypto isn't the only loophole, but of course it is getting noticed in this way. These sanctions are more broad statement. They are more talking just generally about loopholes. And this is basically coming into play because as there were sanctions set in place against Russia, all of the violations for travel bans, arms embargoes, transferring funds, doing business with, a lot of that just went to crypto because it was kind of the easy way to say, hey, well, this isn't regulated. I can still send you money. You can still send me money. It's tracked. It's not like it's not transparent, but it is technically a little bit of a loophole. There were other loopholes, but this is the one that people are focused on. Do you think that this will actually protect people, or is it kind of just like a power grab?
I feel like, and this is kind of like a double-edged sword, right? I feel like it does have the potential to help and protect people. But I mean, at the same time, overreach is overreach. And I mean, if you get down to it on a personal level, the people that you're trying to help by sending whatever you're sending, I mean, it's different. I think that there's a lot of people that will extort it and do bad things, but does that mean that, there shouldn't be access and ways to help out family? Not every person is bad. It's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. I don't think I can take a big one-sided stance. It's a complicated issue. It's a human issue. Because the people in these countries are not the ones that, are causing the problems, but they are the ones who are victims to all of these sanctions. And so it's complicated.
It absolutely is complicated. And I was actually surprised to see that the EU Parliament approved it in a wild landslide of favor, 543 votes in favor, only a couple of abstains, and only a few against. And I don't know, that's a pretty big deal that people aren't really seeing the nuance here, and they're not seeing who they're necessarily actually impacting. Because if you live in the Ukraine or if you live in Russia and you've been, there's a sanction against trading with you, that doesn't mean that you don't need new shoes.
Right.
And of course, there are different applications for sure. It's like if there's an arms embargo, that's a great thing to maybe crack down on. Yeah. But how can we just crack down on crypto and wallets and what have you in general when that's not what everybody's doing? Right.
Right. That's what I was saying. Like, I don't know how you feel on the issue. I think it's just a lot. I'm not sure. Like you said, arms embargo. Yeah, of course. But I mean, these people, it depends on how long, these things last for. We have the opportunity to help them in a way that we've never been able to before. Right. And like support the actual people that have to live through these things. So I don't know. I don't think I can form like a solid opinion, but it's definitely worth putting more look into than just saying like, nope, no crypto, can't do anything. Like that. It's not. I don't believe that the majority of the people are using it for bad, but how do you go about that, right?
Well, the EU, of course, is known for having some of the most clear regulation, with MiCA coming up. Lots of the countries in the EU have already started to implement elements of MiCA. Of course, they need to implement it gradually so that they can actually be successful when it's a required regulation. And for some, it was easier than others if they had fewer crypto companies already in the country, etc. But what we're seeing now is some countries are going above and beyond MiCA. So, for example, Poland right now, Poland's Financial Supervision Authority got voted in to have the authority to block crypto accounts for up to 96 hours without notice. Now, the way that this is being framed is very like power control. How could they do that to you? But the idea is that if there's a suspension or if there's suspected criminal activity, the blocking period can be extended up to 6 months. So this isn't like you sent too much money. This is like arms embargoes. And it makes sense considering Poland's geopolitical location and like what they need to be doing, and it makes sense in line with the previous story about the crypto focused sanctions, but it is also always scary to think, oh, they could freeze my accounts at any time if they don't really understand what I'm doing or what's going on.
Right. I think that that's where this comes into play, is like, where are you in the world? What is at play where you are? And, you know, having some sort of trust that some sort of oversight will benefit the majority, right? I mean, it's hard, like you say, but I mean, that'll come out, I guess, in time. There's nothing you can do about it anyway. Once they've decided that, they've decided that. I mean, you can push back, we can push back and whatever. But I think that, I don't know, if it's been seen that they're trying to do this in a good way, then, and you know, they're not just blocking everybody's accounts immediately and whatever. It's literally, like you said, there's guidelines around what they can do, when they can block, what they're investigating. Then, I mean, I could see that being for the good.
I think this is part of the FUD cycle. Yeah. You know, Poland is like, hey, we're actually just starting to do some of the things that we need to do for MiCA a little bit early. We're not really going that much further, but considering some of the other rules that are coming into play, we are going to go, you know, this one extra step further. We've approved it early. It's not really a big deal. It's just one of many steps. Nice to see everybody here at this press conference. And then a journalist leaves and says, Poland freezes accounts for 96 hours. And it's like, okay, well, did that actually happen? Who did it happen to? Why did it happen? Like, can we go a little bit deeper? And you know, what's interesting about this particular article is I did try to go a little bit deeper and I found no firsthand accounts. I also tried to look in Polish with Google Translate. This wasn't just like an American being like, Poland account frozen. You know what I mean? I didn't find any anecdotes of anybody actually having their accounts frozen since this has come into play this week. So it's not like they did it to have backlash on a particular entity or a company or finance or a government or something like that. They're just falling into step for the regulation that's coming up.
Right. And they also came out and said, hey, we're doing this early. This is what's going to happen when. They weren't like, freeze everybody's accounts. Just kidding. We put this into play. Like, you know, like it's that people knew what was happening. Like you said, they gave notice and understanding of why. And so maybe it's not.
I think it's not that bad. You know, this is that FUD train. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. The curtains, you know, at your neighbors being like, ooh, they're doing bad things over there, but it's really not that bad.
It's actually fun. Yeah, their kids just have a bedtime of 8:30 instead of 8. And you're like, okay, so we have a lot of regulation coming into place, but at the same time, because regulation is in place, it's easier for entities to take action and move forward. So what we're also seeing as MiCA is coming into play is more and more companies being able to operate in Europe, including TradFi companies. So Deutsche Börse, which is, I think, the largest or the second largest financial firm in Germany, like German financial firm. In 2021, they acquired a company called Crypto Finance, very, very creative name for a company.
You won't forget it.
And they've been working with them to decide what they're going to come up with in terms of retail and TradFi trading solutions for crypto. And they had their previous CEO step down in September. He was still active CEO until they found a new one. But last week on Friday, Stefan Leithner will become the new CEO of this German stock exchange operator, which is a pretty big deal because he's pretty young for this role and is considered to be new blood for this role and is moving away a little bit from the sole merger and acquisition strategy that Deutsche Börse has. This is all really relevant because basically what it means is somebody has come to the rings who says, hey, let's stop buying things and actually make something with what we have. The reason that's important is that the company Crypto Finance has quite a lot of backend solutions already. So Deutsche Börse is now releasing crypto non-deliverable forwards, which is kind of cool. So basically, it's like a trading solution where you can trade your crypto in a very legal way that has a little bit of less repercussion. And technically, the bank is holding it, but also technically, they can't reinvest it themselves. So it's kind of this like strange little middle ground for crypto. And then they are also coming up with their own regulated crypto trading platform in Germany.
So it's like a hold in the middle. Like, I know I want this, you have that. They're the bank, their only position is to facilitate the transfer and verify that both sides are good. Yeah. See, this
Pretty
is something
cool.
I actually didn't know anything about, but it is pretty cool. And I think that's the thing about like the step before this, when you talk about like regulation and whatever, like there are benefits that come with it. And we are so far behind on this side of the world because we're so scared to move. How are they going to make the money? Well, this is how they make the money, right? It's about a grow and adapt. What can your bank do for you in a different way? This is pretty amazing, right? Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm glad that it's happening. I'm glad that things like this can happen because regulation is clear. I'm happy to see big TradFi movers in crypto because that means that we're hitting the next part of adoption for our emerging market. But as a DGen, I'm also super sad. I'm like, screw you, TradFi guy, get out of my market.
Yeah, 100%. But I feel like there's always going to be those two sides, right? Like there's going to be this world in which TradFi is involved and things are regulated and whatever, but there's not going to just disappear this, other way to move in a more kind of decentralized version of what it is. It just means that as a whole, we're moving in this direction, right? Like just because money is legal doesn't mean that all the things you can do with money are legal, right? And I'm not saying go do illegal things with your crypto. I'm saying that there's different forms. It doesn't matter how regulated this gets. There's going to be ways that people can move at their comfort and ability. I mean, we created this for a purpose. I'm sure it will continue to move in that direction for the people who want it to be that way, right? It's just as a whole, people are saying, I think it still makes sense, even though there is adoption, through TradFi, through all these, whatever, way more centralized variations of crypto. I mean, at the end of the day, it is faster, cheaper, better than what we're using now. So even if they just move a lot of it on chain, it's still to our benefit as a whole. I mean, we don't have to participate in all of those things. Just the people that are using regular money still can get a little bit of that benefit,
Absolutely. And I'm excited for things like this. This is where someone's mom can actually use crypto and feel
That's
safe.
what I mean. Like the everyday person is participating in a more secure way than what they currently have, right?
The other thing that's going on that's more secure, this is another maybe good news if you're excited that TradFi is entering the space, or you're excited that regulation allows people to actually play in the space. A company called D2X, which is out of Amsterdam and is a crypto firm, is the first in the EU to obtain a Markets in Financial Instruments Directive, which is a law, multilateral trading facility license from the Dutch Authority for Financial Markets. What that means is that they have come into regulation. They've been approved to offer crypto derivatives in a retail level, and it's the first one in the EU to do that.
That's exciting. Excited for them.
Yeah, I can't see it being bad. I feel like if we can accept that regulation is coming, if we can accept that we want to play within those bounds, it's great to have a case study of somebody actually being successful.
Right? Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's a weird position right now because we're finding so much acceleration, specifically this year, because of these people that are allowed to participate. And it's kind of what we want, but kind of also not what we want. So it's really hard to be like, ooh, I'm excited because everything is going up and I'm getting, validated on what I knew 5 years ago, but also don't want these people in here. But you kind of have to see both sides of it, right? Every little win is a win. Every adoption is adoption. They're validating blockchain, not just crypto, right? And that's what we want.
It's a big deal. Okay, let's try to wrap up Europe. We'll talk about Portugal really briefly. When were you in Portugal?
For Avalanche.
Yeah, okay. So what was it like? Was it like a crypto haven? Could you spend your crypto money at the convenience store?
No, not when I was there. No, not at all. But you know what I almost ended up moving there because of their tax laws around crypto, but then I didn't. And now look at what's happening. So
probably good that you didn't. So there's an election on June 9th in Portugal. And there is some contention about what it's going to mean for crypto and for crypto tax law and for expats who have moved to Lisbon specifically to participate because of the crypto tax law. And nobody has actually really come out and said, like, we're going to raise taxes, or we're going to be jerks about this, or we have a really specific crypto policy. But the fact of the matter is they have to fall in line with MiCA. So both sides, both parties are trying to tread lightly and be like, yeah, we still like crypto, but also look at all this regulation that we are going to have to do no matter how we feel about it. Like, we're part of the EU. This is what we're doing, right? So it's kind of interesting to see a lot of FUD about this being like, oh, well, this party is going to raise taxes and this party is going to make it harder to regulate. And it's like, well, no, actually, they're both probably in the same space where they would love to continue to have their GDP hyped up. And maybe one of them wants slightly higher taxes on crypto, but they're not really looking at capital gains taxes. They're looking at falling in line with regulation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what you get for being part of a group, right? Don't quite have the same autonomy to make those kinds of decisions. I mean, it was kind of the place in the past couple of years to go because of their tax laws. And I feel like they're going to see possibly a shuffle out because of it, which is unfortunate. It's a beautiful place. Yeah. But I mean, that's what happens, but it's not all bad. Like you said, it's better for the whole to have some sort of standard. So, yeah.
So for the record, the further left party is essentially saying that they just want to maintain the liberal crypto policies that exist as best as they can. They're not really looking at much in terms of tax changes. They haven't really had conversations about that. Some hypothesize that if there are any tax changes, it will be related to environmental regulation within Portugal so that they can fall within the MiCA and within other EU regulation. But I don't think Bitcoin mining is like the biggest thing in Lisbon. So I don't think that's a huge concern for most people participating. A lot of DeFiers there, not quite so many miners there. However, the right side is actually looking at just a more aggressive stance in terms of blockchain adoption. So how can they better support more people coming in, and what does that look like? But still at the cost of needing to fall within regulation, within micro-regulation. So,
yeah, it's the same thing. They got to pick something to talk about. Like they both have to implement the same thing. It's just, what are your talking points around it? Right?
If JD were here, he would say this is a nothing burger. Okay, let's wrap up by just talking about BRICS a little bit. So BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, has had a lot of movement in the last year. They've picked up a lot of popularity. They've been trying different types of CBDCs. They've been doing little different pilot programs all around the world. It's pretty exciting. And 19 different countries in 2023 expressed interest in joining BRICS. So just recently, BRICS had a summit and they invited new people to join. This is probably a big deal, both because that's a lot of power, right? To be like a new political power, but also it's important because not everybody has said yes. So they have officially invited Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. I believe everyone has now said yes, except Argentina has actually completely declined.
I'm not surprised.
No? Tell me why.
Are you not watching what's happening in Argentina?
Yeah, but I want you to tell me.
Well, he's just... I think that... Oh, I always say his name wrong. Meli?
Yeah.
How do you say it? Meili, but I can't pronounce it. Anyways, just watching him. I mean, he's got some pretty interesting liberal viewpoints, but also, I mean, he's a man with a plan. I'm not sure. I think he wants to have more control than he's willing to let go of to be a part of this group over his country. I'm not saying like he's going to try and take over like the world or BRICS or whatever, but I think that he's trying to. I don't think he'd be willing to move with this pack because then he doesn't have as much of a say in what goes on. So that's why it's not surprising.
He's very pro crypto, and BRICS is much more pro CBDC. So
yeah, I don't think that's what I mean. I don't think he's in the same group. Maybe when they, invited Argentina before he got elected, it might have been a different story. But he's a man with plan. I don't think it's going to work for him.
So what is interesting is that we've seen different CBDCs be trialed in terms of BRICS. And JD and I talk really often actually about how we think that they're probably doing these like pilot programs so that they can come back and talk about what's going on. So for example, China had a retail pilot program in a pretty substantial port city for a while. We saw India doing a lot of institutional terms of trading on-chain CBDCs, that kind of thing. And we've been saying, this looks like they're testing things, and then they're going to go back to the, well, they have announced that they actually have a working group studying BRICS reference currency and CBDCs and how they might impact local currencies. So no surprise there. I think everybody saw that coming if you're paying attention. But what is interesting is that BRICS is now looking at developing a blockchain-based payment system to facilitate trade among member countries and beyond. But they're very happily saying that this is specifically to bypass traditional Western-controlled financial systems like SWIFT and sanctions. They are straight up, they're like, hey, we love what you're doing out there. Not going to participate, though.
Yeah. I mean, somebody legitimately asked me the other day, a friend of mine he's in a different country, and he's like, how's things going over there in America? Are you ready to get out yet? Are you nervous? And I'm like, what are you thinking? What are you watching that I'm not? But things like this, I actually, like, you can't ignore the fact that there's the ability to create these powerhouses and structures on a way bigger global scale. All of these, like you said, these are not small fries. This is Russia, India, China. These are massive players that are able to say, we don't like you, and everybody else is going to play our game now. And so, I mean, it's not to be ignored by any sense. I'm not here to make any predictions, but I would suggest people are watching and paying attention what's going on and the flow of money, the transfer of money. This is a big deal. This is a big deal if you are a person sitting in a country with belief in your monetary system because you have this pride that you've had forever, or just because you're there and not paying attention. And like I said, my country rugged me could be on a lot more shirts than you would expect. By not putting in these, by not giving access to people to alternatives. If you're not going to play, I mean, I'm not suggesting that America, is involved, or Canada is involved, or whatever with these groups. What I'm saying is there needs to be options for people in case things like this happen and they wipe out the need for SWIFT, for things that involve what we have known to always be in our generation. It's really big, important stuff. And I think that people just don't know. They're not paying attention because a lot of people, sorry, I know you have a hard stop. I have a hard stop too, but I'm blabbering on. But a lot of people just take it for granted. They don't want to see, they still have their blinders on around crypto and what they're doing out there. But this is happening. And so people need to start waking up.
It was a really real episode, Christine. If you're not paying attention, pay attention. Look into CBDCs. Look into de-dollarization. Also look into balkanization of monetary systems around the world.
100%.
Take a look at MiCA. See what the sweet heck is going on, and take responsibility for your own finances.
Right.
I think that's what you said.
Well, you used all the nice words. I did it from like this weird emotional place where you're like,
no, I think you did from a very real place that people are feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the crypto arms race. Thanks for going on a girls' trip, Christine. You'd think that you and I would party more, but here we are talking about finance. Remember to like, share, subscribe. We are back tomorrow. I think JD's back tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe you'll have a surprise guest. It's hard to say.
3 minutes beforehand again.
Christine, thank you so much for joining us. Go FUD yourself.
Thank you.